I'll show you a little bit about if statements or if-else statements in this video, kind of an introduction. And in order to fully understand if statements, you do have to know Boolean statements. If you're not familiar with Boolean statements, I'd recommend that you watch some of the Boolean videos that I've created. But I have a class here where I've just set up some basic integer variables, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a variable called test. I've set it equal to 1 right now. And so an if statement is exactly what it says it is. It's doing a test to see if something is true. It's if something's true, I want you to do something. So here's what we're going to do on this. If, and then in parentheses, I have to do a test. So think of this as a Boolean test. I need to test something. I need to find out if two things are equal or not. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put if A is equal to test. Let's do it that way. Now, with an if statement, you have to understand there's a slight change here. A lot of times you're used to putting semicolons at the end of lines. Okay, now that's nothing really wrong with that, but that completes the if test, and that's not what I'm looking for. What I actually want to do is, if A is equal to test, I want something to happen. Okay, so I'm just going to be doing simple output here. If A is equal to test, I would like to output A. And so A equals test. Yes, 1 is equal to 1. That's true. So it is true. So it says if this is true, output it for me. Okay, so I'll run this code, and we'll see down here that it outputs the number 1 for me. Okay, let's say maybe I want to output text. They are a match. Okay, just to show that that's what's happening. Okay, if they're equal, then print me they are a match. Okay, and there it is, they are a match. Now, that's great. Let's say that they don't equal, though. Let's say I check to see if B is equal to test. So is 2 equal to test? No, it's not. This is false. Okay, so notice that now, when I do this, that my output is absolutely nothing down here. There's no output. If I wanted to, I could put an else statement, and I could do it this way. They are not a match. Okay, so else, remember, or if you haven't done this before, if says if this is true, I want you to run this code. Else just says, hey, otherwise, please run this code. So it's kind of a one or the other. With if-else, it's if I get a true, do something. If I don't get a true, that's the else part, then do something else. So B is not equal to test. So for right now, I should get this output. They are not a match. So when I run this code, and there it is, they are not a match. And so this is nice in code. If-else statements are huge because you're always testing to see if something is true, because that should determine what the code does. That should determine what your program does. And so you could do it this way, one or the other. Now you can do it. You can do it in multiple stages, if you will. So I could do it this way. If B is equal to test, run this code. Now remember, it is not. I can do multiple else statements. I can do else if C equals test. Okay, maybe my output will be, maybe I'll just be actually C equals 1. Okay, now it doesn't, so keep that in mind. I can do else if D equals test. I can do an output. I can do as many else if statements as I want. Okay, D equals 1. And maybe then, okay, let's see, I have one more test. So my last test doesn't have the if, it's just the else. Okay, so I will output A equals 1 here. Now notice, if I run this code, the code actually runs through all these tests. It says, is B equal to test? No, skip it. Otherwise, if C is equal to test? Nope, skip it. Otherwise, if D equals test? Nope, skip it. Otherwise, in all other scenarios, just print A equals 1. Now, I understand that logic is a little bit goofy, but it's just showing that it actually skips all of these statements, and it just prints the last statement there. Okay, now I'm going to delete this and we'll start over again and do if, let's do it this way, if a plus 1 equals b, it does, remember, because 2 equals 2, and c plus 1 equals d. Okay, think about that. 4 equals 4, that's true. I'm going to output the word, let's see, if was executed. Okay, I ran the if statement. All right. And we'll just test to make sure that that was run there. If was executed. Yep, it's all good. Okay, now if I say if that if statement's false, if that doesn't work, and I just want something else to happen, okay, else, I'll just output else was executed. Alright, and so I would want to change one of these so that they're false. So a plus 5. Now remember, a plus 5, 6 equals 2. Nope. And with an and statement, if one of these is false, this whole thing evaluates to false. So the if will not work. The else will run. So I'll run this, and there I get the else was executed. Now if I would have thrown in an or here, remember, or says just one of these has to be true. And so now one of them is true, so my if will be executed. And there's my if was executed. And of course now we can go back to our basic statements and just do some other tests with else if. Else if just says we're gonna try to find out which one of these is true. So if a equals 5, we're gonna go if was executed. Else if a equals 4. Now remember, I can't use the single equals. I should be doing the doubles. The single equals is used to assign a value. So if a equals 5 means a should become 5, but it cannot be done inside the if statement. This says I want to test to see if a is 4. Okay, and I will put the first else if was executed. We'll do it this way. Okay, and now I'm going to keep doing other tests. Else if a is equal to 3, I am going to output the second else if was executed. Okay, and then I'm going to go else if, and I'm going to shrink this down. I'll just go a equals 1. Okay, and that'll be the third else if was executed. And remember, on the last, I kind of want to catch all else. Okay, else without the if says all other cases. Okay, just the else was executed. All right. So you should know just by as I type this which one of these pieces of code is going to actually execute or run. And I'm testing to see what a is here in this else if statement. A is 1. So the only line of code, or the only set of code that will run is this set right here. A is equal to 1. So my output should be this one. A third else if was executed. So I'll run that code. And there's my output, third else if was executed. Okay. Now, if I wanted the else, just the else to execute, then I would do something like change this else if to 2. And now remember, it's testing a equal 5. Nope. Let's check this one. A equal 4. Nope. Let's check this one. A equals 3. Nope. A equals 2. Nope. Okay. This is the last scenario, so I'm going to do this one. The else was executed. This is all other cases. So the else was executed. Now what I have to talk about is, what I've done is I've done some simple statements here where if a is 5, just do one line of code. Now, that's not really very typical of a program. If something is true, it's a big set of code that gets run, or something else happens, or the program goes into kind of a different method and does something different. And so if you have multiple lines of code that you want to have happen, you need to add the braces. This is going to be very important. You need to add braces. Now, I could add these braces on every one of these sets if I'm thinking that they're going to all have separate lines of code. Now, let me do this quickly just so I'm consistent on all these. And now, they're all set up, all these statements are set up to handle more than one line of code. Okay, and notice the else or the else if parts. We need the else if, we have bracket to begin it and a bracket to end it. It's just one set. This whole else if and the two sets of brackets have no semicolons involved. The semicolons are at the end of all of the statements within it. So now, if I were to do this, let me return this back to a is equal to 1. So remember, when I run this code, this is the set that's going to occur. And I'll run the code to show the output. The third else if was executed. Okay. And inside here, I'm going to add another output. Hello, second line. Okay, and so when I run this, notice that anything that is inside there will occur. And I could also output things like, I could do my math in here, a plus b. Now remember, a up here was 1 and b was 2. So now my third line of code is going to give me the number 3. And there we go. I'll change that window. There you go. So it's 3. So now you just remember that the braces, the brackets here, allow us to perform more than one line of code when our Boolean test, our if or our if-else statements hold true. So there's the introduction to if-else statements. I hope that helps you understand them a little bit.